Welcome back to Big Country Politics on KTAB.
Well, hello and welcome to this week's Sunday Conversation here on Big Country Politics. I'm Manny Dyess. This week our special guest is our very own U.S. Congressman Jody Arrington. Mr. Arrington, welcome to the broadcast.
Always good to be with you, Manny. God bless the big country.
Yes, sir. Well, we have a number of things to talk about today. We're talking H.R. 8580, which impacts Dyess and Abilene in the big country, along with healthcare consolidation. But first things first, let's get started with H.R. 8580. It's the Fiscal Military Construction, Veteran Affairs, and Related Agencies Appropriations Act, the artist also known as 8580. Tell us a little bit about this bill and certainly how it impacts veterans in Dyess Air Force Base.
Well, Manny, as the budget chairman, let me just give a little 101 on how we resource the government. We have 12 appropriations bills. This is the first of the 12 that funds the VA and military construction. And with respect to military construction, and this bill passed the House, I supported it, we basically depart from a lot of the ideological crusade that has no business in our military and at the Pentagon with respect to the CRT, or racial issues and sexuality. This is focused on readiness. That's what our military should be about. Our first and most important job as United States Congress and the federal government should be about providing for a common defense. So we reorient around readiness, and we provide support for the safety and success of our military and our service members. And in particular, we provide the infrastructure investment and support to onboard the next generation of bomber at Dyess Air Force Base. And I think this is the largest investment since I've represented the big country. It's a $30 million support for the infrastructure around onboarding the B-21 so we can grow and expand Dyess's role in our air arsenal, and also the impact, which is tremendous, on the local economy, which is already at $1 million a day, but will no doubt expand as the role of Dyess expands into the future with the B-21 being based there in the big country.
You've also mentioned in a press release that you sent out to the media that it includes a number of other things, DEI items, diversity, equity, and inclusion items. Expand on that. How does that get positioned in with this particular bill?
Well, the president, our current president, Joe Biden, has used every facet of the federal government to advance his social and ideological agenda. I think it is, quite frankly, a Marxist agenda that divides our country and distracts our military from doing their job, which is to protect the homeland and our interest in allies abroad and to provide for a common defense. But the diversity, equity, and inclusion is a moniker for dividing our country on racial lines. And then you have a number of other social experimentation on the sexuality and gender front. None of the above is appropriate.
Now, there's been talk that, President Biden would veto this bill, this House bill, that, of course, Republicans like yourself say would fund veterans' benefits and cut what they determine to be wasteful spending. Expand on that.
Well, sadly, I don't think the president does not support the substance of what we do to resource military construction and the military infrastructure necessary to support our troops and these new assets that are coming online like the B-21. Sadly, what the president is concerned about is a departure from what he instigated at the Pentagon, whereby our troops are being trained in pronouns instead of how to kill people, break things, and win wars. That's what the mission of the Pentagon and our military should be about if we're going to have this republic persist for another 250 years. We need to focus on, again, providing a defense for all Americans and protecting our freedom and our future against the bad guys out in the world like Vladimir Putin, Kim Jong-un, and their likes.
I'll ask it to you this way. How do you convince members of Congress, certainly on the other side of the aisle, as well as President Biden, that we need to protect our veterans, we need to give support to our veterans, we need to support with a base like Dyess, but perhaps these other things, what you and House Republicans are saying, don't need in terms of DEI? How do y'all get on the same playing field with that? Is there give and take, or you just say, you know what, we can only live with what we can, we're not going to take that?
Well, these things will be meted out when you have the Democrat-controlled Senate's version of funding our military construction and our VA. We haven't even talked about the Veterans Affairs, but there's a risk for our veterans being compromised in terms of their Second Amendment rights. That's something that I will not compromise on for any of our citizens, and especially for our veterans. But to me, we shouldn't allow the sort of ideological issues to dominate what is a very practical and very critical mission of protecting our homeland and America's interest around the world. I think the American people agree with that, regardless of their politics and their philosophy. And I think it's a mistake for the president to continue to have this commitment to a radical ideological agenda that has no place in our military.
All right, we're going to take a quick commercial break, but when we return, more with Congressman Jody Arrington. We're talking healthcare consolidation. It's something that really impacts us, affects us right here in Abilene and the Big Country and throughout West Texas. That and more right here on Big Country Politics.
Welcome back to Big Country Politics on KTAB.
Well, welcome back to our Sunday conversation here on Big Country Politics. This week, our special guest is our U.S. Congressman Jody Arrington. Congressman Arrington, in the first segment, we were talking about H.R. 8580 and its impact with Dyess Air Force Base and veterans and DEI and all that. But now let's focus our attention to healthcare consolidation and certainly the monopolies. This is a big thing that we see here in West Texas. Healthcare is consolidated here in the city of Abilene with Hendrick and San Angelo at Shannon Healthcare. Tell me, what was the genesis of wanting to address something like this particular issue?
Well, I think we're seeing where there is consolidation, and sometimes consolidation means economies of scale and more efficiency for the provider, whether it's pharma in creating new therapies and cures, or insurance companies that are trying to control cost, or hospitals and provider groups that are providing care. But there's a point at which consolidation becomes very similar to the forces of big government, monopoly forces, where you limit competition, you limit the free market, you also limit the choices of patients and the citizens in various markets where you're seeing consolidation. We have healthcare now as almost 20% of our entire economy. It's a $4.5 trillion cost across the United States. It's the biggest driver of our debt and the biggest expenditure in our federal budget. But most of all, it's just too expensive for our families and for our small businesses. And I think a big part of the problem is not enough healthy competitive forces, too many monopoly forces, and too much consolidation and even vertical integration in the supply chain, which is making matters worse. So we are trying to get that conversation going in Washington, and I think you would be surprised at what bipartisan consensus we have from the outset. Democrats and Republicans alike are in agreement on this, and now we have to have very specific strategies to start breaking that up and encouraging the right dynamic in healthcare that will serve the patient and taxpayer much better than the current system.
It was a number of years ago that there was state legislation from our state representatives here locally that helped put it in play here in the state of Texas that allowed monopolies, if you will, in the healthcare system. And now that's how we came to pretty much Hendrick absorbing Abilene Regional, Shannon Healthcare absorbing Community Medical Center. Does this legislation, does this get crossways with what was put in play years ago here in Texas?
Well, I think the more choices that we have as patients and as consumers, the better chance we have at getting the best value, that is cost and quality. We've got to do something about it. I understand the need for scale, especially in rural areas like West Texas, but I don't want West Texans to have the limitations that we have and to bear the cost that we're all bearing in healthcare. And again, this is a Democrat and Republican notion, not one that one party or the other is propagating. And I think we've got some bipartisan support to make some headway here. So that's my position on it. And we're doing, from my position as budget chairman, we're making this theme a priority as we look to make healthcare more affordable and take on the various healthcare reforms.
Do you envision any pushback from our state representatives and here locally?
Well, I think you get pushback on all aspects of the healthcare ecosystem. One aspect to this, is what we call site neutral payments, where we are paying currently hospitals more to do the same outpatient services that independent physician groups do. And it's the same outcome, often the same healthcare professionals. So if we have a site neutral payment system, and that will reduce the cost to taxpayers by about $150 billion. And it will also provide more competition, less consolidation of doctor groups within hospital systems. And you'll also see the cost to seniors and Medicare beneficiaries go down. So I'm just using that as one example, but there are plenty of other ways to get at this perverse incentive that comes with consolidation of healthcare assets and the monopoly forces that ensue.
What appears to be the next step for this consolidation that you're looking to put in play?
Well, I have legislation on the site neutral payments with respect to hospitals and independent physician groups. So that initiative is something I'm leading, and I have bipartisan support. So we just have to build that consensus and drive it across the goal line of passing it out of Congress and getting it to the president's desk. It's also in my balanced budget blueprint. And the good news is the idea also emanated with a Democrat, President Barack Obama. So I'm confident that we can get that through.
Would this override what was done here in the state of Texas if this is kind of passed on a federal level?
Well, I think it'll be felt all over the country if we open up more competition and we prevent big medicine from getting bigger in all facets. We need choices, and we need that healthy competition. If we don't have it, then the situation in terms of the cost and access to healthcare worsens. And so we believe in free enterprise. We believe in free market forces as good conservatives in West Texas, because we believe the outcome there is greater value in terms of lower cost and better quality when we have that. And that the trend is going the wrong way. We need to put the incentives in place to take the trend to a greater, freer, and more competitive market, for sure.
Congressman Arrington, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Manny. God bless.
For Congressman Jody Arrington, I'm Manny Dyess. This has been another Sunday Conversation here on Big Country Politics. We'll see you next time. God bless.